wanted to see what it's like. I said, why did you? I said, you're crazy. Why? He said, yeah, because I was in Lakewood and there was thousands of Jews by an event. And I said, wow, it's so amazing to be with thousands of people. I really am interested in going to a huge pilgrimage. I said, so Meron is not good enough for you? Or Uman? No. He went for 2 weeks to Iran, where people go, Iraq. He said Iran he wouldn't do it, but Iraq he would. Listen, he said there were 24 million people. 24 million people all walking. Everybody there, and he squeezed into the mosque. He went to the mosque. Whatever. I said it wasn't scary. He told me his crazy story. But in any case, so you have 24 million people, so many people, and everybody, and they're all our enemies, right? And yet and nobody, in a sense, these 24 million going, how much, when you go out in places like that, or you go to India and you see billions of people, and no one even talks about them, no one even knows about them. And we little Jewish people who are hardly anything are in the front page of the news all the time. Like the UN has nothing better to do but to talk about us. Think about that. And the UN is the collective representation of the entire world. The subject is always Israel. The subject is always the Jewish people. You know why? Because everybody in the world knows we're number 8. To get into the covenant of the Jewish people, you have a circumcision, a brit milah, on the 8th day. Because 8 is beyond nature, it's infinite. And that infinite light and that infinite revelation is going to be in the time of Mashiach. And when 8 is going to be revealed in the time of Mashiach, as we know that in the Holy Temple, the harp that would play, in the past harp, time of the first temple, second temple, the instruments that they played had 7 strings to produce the 7 musical notes. But the harp of Mashiach is going to be Lam Natseach al Hashminit. On the 8th, it's going to have 8 strings. Because we're going to discover the 8th note. That's going to be the Jewish contribution. Oh, wow. The infinite light of God that's going to be sounded around the world with the 8th note, the light of Hanukkah. That's the music of the future, the music of Mashiach, which is number 8. And what will that note trigger? What will that note awaken? What will it stimulate? It will stimulate laughter. It will stimulate unimaginable joy. As we say right after the word uz is number 8, going back to uz yemale, then it will be filled, schok pinum, our mouths will be filled with laughter. We've never laughed like we're going to laugh when Mashiach comes. Uz, and only then, it's as if we never laughed before. Then we're going to laugh. And who's the source of our laughter? Where does all the laughter to the Jewish people come from? Strangely, we have an inheritance. It was the first Jewish baby being born. What do you see was associated with what? With laughter. It's amazing. As soon as Sarah hears that she's going to have a baby, what does she do? She starts laughing, and then she's blamed for it. But it wasn't really her fault, because Jews are funny in the sense that we're an amusement to the world. We're the laughter of the world. And that's why Sarah breaks and starts laughing. And she doesn't only say that. She says, when the baby is born, she says, everybody that will hear will laugh. Kol hashemea yitzachak li. Everybody will laugh. And the laughter is so integral to us that the first Jewish baby's name, he's the one who has the brit milah. The first person who had the brit milah at 8 days old was who? Was Yitzchak. And what's his name? Yitzchak. But Yitzchak is the one name that means Yitzachek. We will laugh. Because Yitzchak, the laughter of Yitzchak has not happened yet. It will be in the future. Oz Yemale, then we're going to laugh. Yitzchak's laughter. And take a look at the amazing thing. Yitzchak, the numeric value of Yitzchak, the gematria of Yitzchak, Yud, Tzadik, Ches, Kuf. The numeric value. Anybody still have a head to do some math? I'll tell you. Yud, 9, it's $100. What? No, Yud and Tzadik is 100 together.
Yes.
Kuf is another 100, is 200. And then there's a Ches, 208. Yitzchak is 208. Now 208, watch this. 208 is Gematria. 208 is Gematria 8 times 26.
Wow.
Cool, no? Yitzchak, that's right, Yitzchak is 8 times God's name. Havaya, 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 Yud Kei Vav Kei, God's name, 8 times. Because the number 8, the transcendence of God, Havaya, the 8th Havaya, it's going to be revealed only. Now we can only experience 7 times Yud Kei Vav Kei. But when the Mashiach comes, we'll get the 8th dimension, the infinite light, which will cause us to laugh. That's the future light, the light of Mashiach. So, and it's 8 times. But it's very interesting. Yitzchak has 2 sons. Yitzchak has 2 sons. There's 2 boys. The story of, the evolving story of all of world history evolves with the dramatic story of the 2 sons of Yitzchak. One of them is Yaakov and the other one is Esav. Yaakov becomes the father of the Jewish people and Esav becomes the father of Rome and the entire Western culture. So that's Esav, and we know that these 2 are at each other's throats. Yaakov is a tzaddik, and Esav is a wicked, vulgar lowlife. And that's Esav, right? So you have Yaakov and Esav. So they're both children of, and we would expect that all the light, all of Yitzchak's spiritual energy, especially the laughter of the future, he would pass it on in his DNA to his children, but primarily to Yaakov, because Yaakov is his primary son. Yaakov is the one who is going to carry the covenant of Abraham. Esav, it's not like the 12 tribes where they all make up part of the Jewish people. Yaakov's children. Here, Esav gets spit out. And Yaakov is the one that has the inheritance of Yitzchak. If that's the case, I ask a little question. Number one, why did Yitzchak love Esav so much? He had this fascinating love to his son Esav. He loved him more than he loved Yaakov. And he so much wanted to give him the blessings. It's easy, if you don't learn Chassidus, to say, well, he made a mistake. But if you learn a little Chassidus and you understand who the forefathers are, that they are a chariot to God. They're a Merkava. They're like the chariot of God. God is flowing through them. They don't make mistakes. There's no such a thing as a mistake. If Yitzchak is loving Esav, it's because something special with Esav. So let's try to find out what that is.
Potential.
Well, let's see. Well, you know what you'll see? Fine, look at this amazing thing. Yitzchak is 208. How much is Yaakov, the numeric value of Yaakov? Yud, Ayin, Kuv, Beis.
10.
So Yud starts with 10, it's easy one. Ayin is 70. So it's 80 already. We got 80. And then Kuv Beis is 102. 102 plus 80?
182.
182. So Yaakov's numeric value of Yaakov is less than Yitzchak. He's 208, and he's 182. What's the difference between 208, whose head is still working here? 208 minus 182 is how much? 26.
So it's 7.
Wow, Yaakov is missing one of the. So Yaakov is 7 times Hashem's name. Did you ever realize that? Yaakov is 7 times Yud Kei Vav Kei, God's name. God's name, the numeric value of God's name is 26. Yaakov is 7. Yitzchak is 8. Shouldn't we be progressing? Seems like we're downgrading. We're going down. And we know that Yaakov is considered the most precious, the most chosen of all the fathers. He's, in a sense, the greatest of the fathers. And yet his name only has 7 times Hashem's name. He lost one. What happened? He has a brother.
Oh, wow.
His brother has one of them. His brother, Esav, is also a son of Yitzchak. Esav has one of those Yud Kei Vav Keis buried in him. Not only does he have one of them, he has the highest one, the eighth one. See, the 7, as we said before, are all limited. It's all limitation. 8 is infinite. The most potent, powerful, infinite light of God represented in the 8th, Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's the laughter of the future. That's going to make us laugh. Is not in Yaakov, it's in Esav. Now, where do we find that in Esav there is Yud Kei Vav Kei? Where do we find that? Let's take a look at Esav's name. A little gematria here as well. Esav, how do you spell Esav? Ayin, Shin, Vav. It's on it.
So it's
Ayin, Shin, and Vav.
376.
Oh, so Ayin, Shin, and Vav is 376. So let's break that down. How does he get to the name? How does he get to 376? He gets to first. So it's 350 plus 26. Ooh, that's good. See, now you're getting it. 376. We're going to separate 26 because he's got that 8th 26 that he's got in his soul. But there's another 350. What's that? Well, the 350 is 7 times the word tameh.
Oh, wow.
Tameh is spelled Tes Mem Aleph. So Mem Aleph is 41, Tes is 9. 41 and 9 is 50. So Esav, Yaakov, has 7 times Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's his name. He has 7 times God name. He's a godly person through and through. All of his 7 emotions are completely reflecting God. He's so holy. Esav, all of his 7 emotions are thoroughly rotten and contaminated. He's full of tumah. He's full of impurity. He's a murderer. He's an adulterer. He's every type of wickedness that you can only imagine is wrapped up in one person. 7 impure powers. And we would give up on him. Rivka was going to say, hey, forget about him. Trash him. Sadly. He's a lost case. But Yitzchak has eyes. Because Yitzchak has a piece of him inside Esav. And Yitzchak penetrates his son Esav and sees that in Esav there is a diamond that's sparkling even more brighter than all the 7 lights of Yaakov. That Esav has a certain light because Yitzchak can detect the 26. That's the nucleus of Esav. He realizes that Esav at his inside core has one of Yitzchak's names of God inside his soul, but it is wrapped with 7 coils, 7 wrappers of impurity. 7 wrappers of impurity. Now watch this amazing thing. Yaakov is coming back. Esav with all of his darkness and his impurity hates his brother Yaakov. He wants to kill him. And he kills a lot of people. He has no problem, hiring a hitman. Doesn't have to look far. He gets his son Eliphaz. He actually tried to do it. He's got connections to every thug that was alive in those days. And then let me tell you something. In those days were a lot of thugs. And he could take, and he wants to kill him. Yaakov runs away for 20 years, actually 34 years, but first he was 14 years to yeshiva, and then for 20 years he goes to his uncle Lavan's house, and he comes back with a massive family. Interesting, when Yaakov returns, what did we read? Vayishlach Yaakov malachim el Esav. Yaakov sends messengers to Esav, and he says, I'm coming. And the sages get very upset. They say, what are you doing, Yaakov? Esav's got his own problems. He's in the casino. He's doing what he's doing. He's not thinking about you. Why in the world are you provoking him? Why are you doing that? And the Midrash compares it to a person on a hiking trail or has to pass by and there's a sleeping grizzly. Okay, the best thing to do is if he's sleeping, don't wake him up. Just continue on as fast as you can. Why did Yaakov tap Esav on the shoulder and say, I'm coming? Esav would have not have paid attention for him. The Midrash says, and Yaakov woke him up. So we need a deeper explanation. And the answer is, When Yaakov spent 20 years in the house of Lavan, think about that. That was for Yaakov an exile. But since he's our father, he encapsulates in himself all of his children. So his 20 years equals 2,000 years. When Yaakov goes to his uncle Lavan and he's working day and night, and he says, in the summer, in the scorching heat, in the winter, in the frost, what is he describing? He's really describing all the events that occurred to the Jewish people during the current exile of 2,000 years. We're almost 2,000 years in exile. Yaakov spent 20 years. And we know that if our forefathers wouldn't have done it, we would never be able to survive. He did it for us. He did it in the source, and now we're just the details of it. So when Yaakov is coming back, think about it. When Yaakov is returning to Yitzchak's house, when he's going back, it's the Jew coming back from exile. This story is such an important story because that story is literally our story. We are the Jews today coming back from exile. We are Yaakov now returning. We're on our home journey back to Israel. Think about it. All the Jews are gathering to Israel. More and more and more are coming. Look, all the Ukrainian Jews had gone back to Israel. Others, the French Jews had massive amounts. And a lot of people making Aliyah all along. Forget about after the Holocaust. And we're all gathering. We're all coming back. We're like Yaakov returning. And so really Yaakov is going, where is he going? He's going to the redemption. He's going to the Geula. Called Geula means the redemption. But Yaakov knows that he cannot go to the redemption without who?
Esav.
Without his brother Esav. Why? Because Esav has the key to the redemption. The redemption is what's the redemption? Think about it. The redemption is the infinite laughter. The revelation of God's transcendental infinite light. Yaakov doesn't have the key to that. Yaakov only has the key to the limited revelations of finite godliness. The limited godliness, it's called or pnimi, internal light, light that goes into vessels. Yaakov is very holy, but it's all within context. It's all limited. It's all small. Yaakov doesn't have the ability to really think really big. He's stuck in a world of smallness, of limited vessels. So it's great. He can go to the temple, but it will be a very limited experience. It won't be global. It won't be big. It will be very, very limited. In order for him to bring forth the ultimate, infinite and boundless redemption, his brother, the grizzly, is sleeping on the key. He has no choice but to wake his brother up and tell him, hey bro, let's go. You ready? That was really what he asked him. Are you ready to come together with me and build the holy temple? And you know what Esav's answer was? Esav woke up with a growl. And, he gave Yaakov one of his fingers, as they say. Mm-hmm. That's what he basically did. He said, I'm coming against you with 400 men. That's what he did. And he came out. He wasn't ready at all. Because Yaakov had finished his job. Esav had not done his job. Esav was still filled with the 7 impure tameh, and he only fattened, like the fat cows, he only fattened those cows, those 7 impure emotions, and he made them even more corrupt and more corrupt. So Yaakov now is going to have an encounter with Esav. And what's the amazing story? This is so crazy. And if you understand the inside of the story, everything in the world that's going on will stop making sense. This is crazy. So what happens? Esav is coming. Yaakov first battles at night with the angel of Esav. All night long he gets injured. And then finally the next morning they're ready for the encounter. Yaakov doesn't know if he's going to come out alive. Not him and his family. What happens is when they see him at a distance, this is an amazing movie. They're coming closer and closer. And as Yaakov sees his brother, you know what it says? Yaakov goes ahead of his family, and he bowed down. How many times did he bow down? Do you know what it says? It says that the verse says openly, Yaakov bowed down 7 times. He bowed, and he bowed, and he bowed. And then the verse says these words, Ad Gishtoi, until he approached an Achiv to his brother. You know what? Why is Yaakov bowing? Yaakov is bowing because every time Yaakov bowed, he peeled away, he stripped from Esav one of those 7 coils of impurity. He said, Esav, you're not ready, I'm going to have to do it for you. By Yaakov bowing, he zapped his brother with such holiness that the gook, like the gook that was sitting on Esav's heart, the 7, Yaakov was using his 7 Yud-Kei Vav-Keis. Think about it this way. Yaakov has 7 times God's name in him. He's zapping him with that energy. He's hitting him in the gut. He's hitting his tameh, his impurity. And as he bows, because bowing means to draw down. When you're bowing, you're downloading. He downloaded onto Esav this powerful godly light, and it caused the impurity of Esav one time, one husk, one klipa, one impure, one time 50, out. He bowed again. The second, he minused another 50. By the time he was done, he knocked off the 350 from Esav. What was left of Esav?
26.
The only thing that was left was the 26. Well, now he looks like his brother. Now he doesn't. Esav and Yaakov never looked like brothers. They were as different as possible. But after Yaakov removed all the gook that was sitting on Esav's soul, and he removed all of that, and he stripped him from all of that, guess what Esav was? Esav was nothing more than the inner core, the lost Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, the lost one of God's names that was lost, was suddenly recovered. And what happens at that moment? No one can explain this. This doesn't make any sense. Instead of Esav running and literally had a big jaw, instead of him opening his mouth and clamping on Yaakov's skull or in his thing and literally biting him to death, what does he do? He runs over to him, he grabs his brother, and they kiss, and they both start crying. What happened? You know what happened? Mashiach came at that moment. Esav and Yaakov were joined together. The 8 lamps were shining. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, you had a full menorah. The 8 lamps of the Hanukkah menorah. The laughter of the future was just a moment. It was a Kodak moment. Because it didn't last more than a second. Because Esav is going to go back to being Esav. But for one moment, Esav's true light came out at that moment and was shining brightly. And that was Mashiach in the days of our fathers. And then they have a little discussion, and Esav says, come with me, and Yaakov says, I don't think you're ready. You go back home, I'm going to come to you eventually. And Rashi says, he never went to him. What is he saying? I'm going to come to you. So Rashi says, in the days of Mashiach he will come. You know why? Because Yaakov, that moment that Esav did tshuva, for 1 second, was not because he did tshuva, was because Yaakov elevated him for the moment. But Esav himself didn't do tshuva because he felt that way, because he was a transformed human being. You're never transformed if someone else fixes you. The only way to be transformed is really to do the hard work yourself. And that's going to take work. So Esav is not ready yet. The children of Yaakov are going to have to live in the land of Esav for 2,000 years. Amongst the Gentiles. And learn Torah and do mitzvot. Breathe the air. And interact with the Gentiles for thousands of years. And in those thousands of years, they're going to purify and purify. Bit by bit, slowly but slowly, until Esav is really ready. And the 8th Yud-Kei Vav-Kei of Esav is ready to join the 7 Yud-Kei Vav-Keis of Yaakov, and together we will build the temple. And we will bring the Shekhinah down. It will not just be a Jewish thing. It will be Jew and non-Jew together. The Jew is going to uplift the non-Jewish people. And the truth is, it says in Hasidism, the real infinite energy that's going to come in the time of the redemption is coming from the rectification of the non-Jew, not from the Jewish soul. The Jewish soul is the one who does the repair. We're the ones who do the fixing. But it's the non-Jewish soul, primarily Esav, who has that power and that energy of the infinite and to bring down the redemption. That's the incredible power of the Geula of number 8. So, I think we've come to the time. Wait, and it's interesting that Rabbeinu Bechaya, one of the great commentators on Chumash, he says an interesting thing. He says that it says that the pig is going to become kosher. In the end of days, in the days of Mashiach, Atid Chazir Litaer, a pig is going to become kosher. So what does that mean? Does that mean we're going to eat? So some commentators say, yeah, really, because the pig is going to start chewing its cud. The nature of the pig is going to change, and it's going to start chewing its cud. It's going to be a kosher animal. Another reason to wait for Mashiach. Absolutely. If all the other reasons are not good enough. But the Rabbeinu Bechaya says, you know what it means? It means that Esav, who's compared to a pig, the nation of Edom, which is Rome, they are going to be the ones. The Rabbeinu Bechaya says these words. Rome destroyed our temple. They need to rebuild it. This is what he says. They are going to rebuild it. They are going to enable the building of the temple. Now, who is Rome? As we said earlier, Rome, we know, Esav's children evolved into the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire then eventually dissolves into what we call the general Christian European West. And then the European West, eventually, some part of it comes over as immigrants to the United States of America. Mm-hmm. And then we have the United States of America, which is the rectified Edom. This is the first society in all of history that is a repaired society. It's a society that has a lot of incredible good qualities and refinement. Not perfect, because it's not Mashiach yet. Right. But it's a different Gentile than we've known in the past. It's not the same Gentiles, it's not the same Christians like the European Christians, with their hatred, you see how much the American, when we say the America, we don't mean the two coasts. We're not talking about necessarily Seattle and San Francisco, which there it's changing as well. But we're talking about the United States, mid-America. Millions and millions of people who incredibly are God-fearing people, who want to live good lives, decent lives, and love the Jewish people and love Israel and give millions and millions and millions of dollars to Israel. And that's all good, but we need Esav himself. And today's days, I don't even have to say this anymore because everybody knows. There is no question in my mind that Donald J. Trump is the reincarnation of Esav. I was saying this in 2016. I was saying this in 2016. Back then. I was saying this in 2016, and people thought I'm off my mind. And I'm telling you, I said this is a crazy story. This man exhibits all the characteristics of Esav. He has all of it. He's red. He even comes from German descent, which is really interesting. Which is, if you think of Esav, anybody, he's an impulsive person. He harps over things that he does that he lost, that were taken away from him. If you look at Esav in the Torah, he doesn't stop harping about how this was stolen from him and that was stolen from him. And you see that he's busy all day, busy harping. He stole the election from me, and he stole the blessings from me, and he stole the firstborn from me. And you know what else he's doing all the time? He's name calling everybody. Sleepy Joe and Crooked Hillary and everybody has a name. And look in the Torah, what does Esav do? He says, didn't I call him Yaakov? But Yaakveinu, he's a cheater. Yaakov means cheater. He cheats the blessings from me. He called Yaakov Crooked Yaakov. Literally, everything about Esav, you see him in Trump. He's an exact. And the Jewish people never, ever, ever had a friend like him. And his entire coming to power makes no sense at all. Back in 2016, when everybody laughed, it was such a joke that he was even running for president. You can watch these YouTubes where they say you should look it up because it's really, then you see the miracle. Best Trump can't win compilation. You got to watch it. It's everybody in Washington and in the media. Everybody. Republicans, Democrats, talk show hosts, TV anchors. Every person. Everybody is laughing. They say it's ludicrous. What does he think? He will never, ever be president. It's not possible. It's a joke. It's not going to happen. Even Rubio, who is now going to be Secretary of State, is also laughing. He says it's not going to happen. It was so impossible. It was so absurd. And here's where you see clearly God's hand, the Eibishter. And have you ever seen a person so persecuted? So much was everything thrown against him to destroy him, to take him down back in 2016. But now, after January 20th, after January 6th of 2021, and what they threw at him and what they tried to do with him and destroy him and so on. And yet, the fact that he was able to come back a second time, this is crazy. But we all know just a few weeks ago, where he sent out a tweet, and it said as follows. He said, listen here. He said, when January 20 comes, and I'm going to be president, if those hostages are not back, all hell is going to be released like America has never done before. In other words, he's standing up. I mean, of course, there's American hostages there as well, but he's standing up for the Jewish people like no one has ever done before. He recognized Jerusalem. Yep. He is the one who freed Rubashkin. The anniversary is coming out now on Zot Chanukah. He's the one who recognized the Golan. He pulled out of the Iran nuclear whatever, fakak the deal that we know is fakak because we know that because the ridiculous Biden went back into that's why October 7th happened. All of this happened because of the ridiculous, insane, suicidal support to Iran. He pulled out. He defunded UNRWA, and everybody, he defunded. And we know what UNRWA has done. UNRWA is full of terrorists. Exactly. He kicked the Palestinians out of Washington. He made the Abraham Accords and brought millions and millions and millions of Muslims to become friends with the Jewish people. And Esav has a very special connection to Yishmael, because it says that Esav goes and he marries Yishmael's daughter. They become very deeply connected. His first trip that he did when he was president was to Saudi Arabia and to Israel. Like Esav goes to his uncle Yishmael, and at the same time comes and he goes to the only president who stands by the Western Wall. Wow. So you're watching literally an incredible transformation of Esav transformed. And ready for the redemption. Esav now is saying, Hineni, I'm here, I'm ready. But this is just a little bit of the story. There's something huge here, which I'd like to share now. A few more minutes, but something extraordinarily spectacular. L'chaim. You know, in the end of Torah portion, where's Moshe David though? What happened to him? He was so busy wanting to know what's going to be with Musk, with Elon Musk. Let me go get him. Get him. Tell him. Every time he comes in, he sits, and then he leaves and says, "Oh, I should have been."
Whiskey, tequila, cognac, kosher. Anyone? Help yourself.
Okay. Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
Sit here. Tie him down.
Sit on my lap.
Moshe, садись.
But we really need to know.
Misha.
We really need to know what is the true. I mean, we obviously are sensing that this is Moshiach. We are watching Moshiach in action. But now we introduce to you some other numbers that are very important. And here it is. We spoke about number 8. 8 has a first cousin who's got the same quality as number 8, but on a higher level.
9.
Quality, the number that is very much the same like number 8, which is a number of transcendence, meaning it's a number of energy that's above vessels, infinite energy, is number 11. 11 is a very important number. The reason for that is because 10, just like 7 we said before, the world is made up of 7 because the structure is 7. If we look at a greater structure, the full Kabbalistic chart, not just the 7 lower emotions that God created the world with, but the brains behind the creation of the world, which are the Chachma Bina Das, Chabad. So you have Chachma Bina Das, this is the 3 intellectual faculties, it makes it 10. And we also know how the world is set up in digits of 10. And when God created the world, He used 10 utterances to create the world. The Torah is given to us in 10 commandments,
yeah.
and 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, everything is in 10.
Yep.
So 10 is a perfect number. And when something is 10, it's in its utmost perfection. But then there is above the perfection of the world, like we discussed earlier, the miracle, the utterly infinite. It says in the Zohar, it says, Antu da pikas, that you have emanated eser tikunin. God emanates of Himself 10 attributes through which He runs the world. But it says, before that it says, Antu chad, but you are one, velo bechushban, and you're not part of those 10. God Himself is the singular one above the 10. He infuses the 10 with His presence, but He's not limited by the 10. He is the one above the 10. And that's the secret of number 11. Mm-hmm. Now, mysteriously, Esav is connected to number 11 as well. Which means, just like Esav is connected to number 8, as we discussed earlier, he has the 8th one of the Yudke, the transcendental Elai, he's connected to number 11. The Torah in the end of Parshas Vayishlach, 2 Torahs Parshas ago, the Torah says as follows, that these are the chiefs of Esav. Ele alufei Esav. These are Esav has children, and he has chiefs. And it enumerates 11 chiefs. Esav's family became tribes, various different tribes. They didn't have a king, they had tribes. And each tribe had a chief. They're called an aluf. And there are 11 alufei Esav. That means that Esav, mysteriously, is connected to the power of number 11. And the reason for that has to do with the fact that the forces of darkness and the forces of unholiness can't be sustained by the number 10, by order, because they're not part of the order, they don't behave. To be part of a system, you have to be behaving according to the system. That which is unholy breaks the system. It's like the criminals that are outside of the system. So they can't be supported by the system, they have to circumvent the system. And therefore they go up to the number 11 and they nibble from number 11. They like going above. That's why you find in the Torah many stories that all the really dark people in history were fascinated with heights. They were always going to a very tall place, to a very high place. Like the Nimrod, like the Russians were the first ones to send up the Sputnik. They had to get up to a very, very, very high place. Nimrod, what did he do? they build the Tower of Babel, going to a very high place. Another man that went very high was Haman. Haman, who was a grandson of Esau from Amalek.
Yep.
He too is very high. He builds a gallows 50 cubits, and Mordechai doesn't need a gallows of 50 cubits. Why is he making such a tall gallows? It's all because always running to the infinite. That's where they have power from. Holiness doesn't have access to that light. The unholy goes there and makes very, very... You know, when Yaakov had the dream, this is an interesting thing. You know, when Yaakov was sleeping and he saw the ladder?
Right.
So it says that there were angels going up and down. So the Midrash tells us that the angels that were going up, each angel represented another force of exile. The first angel was the angel of Egypt. And he was going up and up and up and up, and Yaakov was scared. But when he went up to the 210th rung, he tripped and he fell down. And Yaakov said, oh. And then the next angel went up, and he went up 70 rungs, and he tripped and he fell. That was the Babylonian angel. And then the next angel went up, and he went up to 100 and something, I don't remember the exact number, and he tripped and he fell, and that was the Persian angel, because Persia took over after Babylon, and they were in power for a certain amount of years, and then their empire fell. And then another angel went up, and up, that's connected to Hanukkah, the angel of the Greeks, went up pretty high, tripped and fell. Finally, it says, there was one angel who started going up and 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 wasn't falling. He went up so high, Yaakov gets terrified. And he says, this seems never to end. Who's that? That's the Edom. That's his brother Esau. That angel was going higher and higher and higher and higher, and Yaakov can't even see him anymore. He's so high up. And God says to Yaakov, don't be afraid. In tagbihi kenesher, even if he will rise himself up like an eagle. This is the Haftorah from Obadiah. Obadiah was a grandson of Edom. He was a convert. He was an Edomite convert. And he is the one who's prophesizing about the fall of Esau. And over there it says in the verse, Im tagbiya kenesher, even if you will rise like an eagle, I will throw you down from up there, God says. Which means Esau climbs to a very high place. Where does he go to? What's the heights? Heights is above the 10, into number 11. In Kabbalistic terminology, that's the keter, that's the crown. The level of crown. The 10 sefirot start with chachma, internal powers. Keter is infinity, the crown above, into enormous strength. But God has to give us a way to get to that place as well. You know who gets to number 11? When we learn Torah and we do mitzvot, we stay within the realm of number 10. The only time we get to number 11 is when we slip and we fall and we sin and we do bad stuff and we fall into darkness, and then we do tshuva.
David HaMelech? No?
You see, David HaMelech or any Baal tshuva. That's why God made it today's days that so many Jews have no other way to connect to God only through doing tshuva. Because in order for Mashiach to come, we need to access the infinite light of number 11. And that comes from a Baal tshuva. Because what happens to a Baal tshuva? When someone is returning back to a connection, after you're severed your connection, the way you return is generally not so much intellectual. It's because your soul can't stand being far, and the soul raptures. And that makes you a little crazy. In order to change your life, I struggle so much to change the smallest things in my life. I stand in utter bafflement, and how do people who lived all their life eating McDonald's, going into every place, living whatever, and not keeping Shabbat, doing, and change their life? It doesn't make any sense to me. I literally don't understand it. And you know what? Every Baal Tshuva is crazy, but it's a good craziness. Yeah. It's a holy craziness. It's an energy beyond intelligence. That's number 11, and that's why there was once a year that the truth is, we did it every day. It represents it primarily once a year. There's one mitzvah in our Jewish experience that's number 11. Anybody know which mitzvah is number 11? Oh, there's a ketores. Ketores is the spice that the Kohen, the incense that they would burn, was made up of a bunch of spices. It had 11 spices inside of it.
Wow.
And they would do it every day, but primarily it was done on Yom Kippur. That's the main service of a Kohen Gadol. That's the day when everybody's doing tshuva. And when the Kohen would go in, and he would go to the Holy of Holies is like number 11. Number 8, number 11, transcendence. It's above time and space. The Holy of Holies is outside of time and space. It's infinite. And he would go and he would smoke that smoke over there and create that smell, that fragrance in the Holy of Holies. And you know that one of those spices, generally, the ingredient of every mitzvah that you use, the ingredients have to be kosher. You cannot use, for example, if you're writing a Torah, you can't write a Torah from an animal. You can't use a camel's hide for a Torah because a camel is not kosher. You have to use a cow. For tefillin, you can't use a rabbit's skin for tefillin because the rabbit is not kosher. You can only use a kosher animal. There is one mitzvah that you can use non-kosher. In the spices, one of the spices came from a glands of an animal, from a scent of an animal, and that was put into the ketores, and it was a non-kosher animal, because that represents the power, number 11, and when we do tshuva and we activate number 11, what do? Here's the wild idea. We convert the unholy, we convert the klipa, we convert Esav. The work to flip over Esav, who is number 11. As we said, he has 11 chiefs. To flip over Esav, we can only do that when we access a parallel power. The power of number 11. 11 of holiness has the power to counter 11 of the unholy. It's 11 versus 11. Only power of transcendental holiness can defeat Esav. So the Kohen Gadol would take the 11 spices and he would go into the Holy of Holies and burn it over there. And you know what happened? Everybody knows what was one of the main dramatic moments on Yom Kippur? They would send the goat, the scapegoat, out, and the scapegoat had a ribbon tied. Do you know what color ribbon that was?
Red.
It was red, scarlet red. And when they threw the ribbon down, when they threw the goat down, what happened? The ribbon turned white. That is representing Esav doing tshuva. That represents all the forces of darkness being flipped over to holiness. Red becoming white. And you know what else they're using? They're using a goat. Now, do you know that goats was always the symbol of demons?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whenever you see demons, it's always goats. It's that was always it's not just symbol. Demons look like goats. They come and they're scary. And Esav, Yaakov is compared to sheep. Yaakov was busy with sheep, keves. And Esav is called Ish Sa'ir, a man of hair. But he's also, Ish Sa'ir is a goat. Shnei Asirim. So, that's why when they brought the two goats, it's like the twins, Yaakov and Esav. But the one that's going out is the dark one. And what happens is when the Kohen Gadol did the work with the ketores, he was converting darkness into light. He transformed the darkest forces and flips Esav over to holiness. So the only way that we can take the wicked Esav and result in an Esav like we're watching today, there must be the power. Who is the power? The power of all the Bali Tshuva, everybody that did Tshuva. It's not just, if Jews would have all remained religious and observant, we would never have done this. It's only because we went astray and we went far and we're doing teshuvah, and that is evoking such infinite lights. It's when sins convert to merit, that's what causes the sinner Esav to also flip over and metamorphosize and to transform. But there has to be a source to number 11. Who is number 11? So let me share with you something absolutely crazy. Crazy. The leader of our generation is a lot of tzaddikim, but the leader who's had the biggest influence in the world, everybody knows, is the Lubavitcher, whose influence is world, globe, who started Bali Tshuva, the original one, so to speak. to bring Baalei Tshuva, change the whole world. The Rebbe spoke many times explaining. The Rebbe didn't speak about himself, but the Rebbe spoke about his father-in-law. The Rebbe always blamed everything on his father-in-law. But the Rebbe was always the Rebbe was speaking about my father-in-law after he passes away, the continuation of my father-in-law. So there is, and this is crazy. This is one of the last talks the Rebbe gave, where the Rebbe goes into a lengthy explanation that his father-in-law is associated with number 10. The Rebbe says, my father-in-law, when he was alive, was associated with number 10, because his name is Yosef Yitzchak, which both those names, Yosef and Yitzchak, start with a Yud, which is 10. And he passed away on Yud Shvat, which is the 10th day of the month. And he passed away in the year Tafshin Yud, 5710. So he says, my father-in-law represents the perfection of holiness. Perfection of holiness. But he said the continuation of my father-in-law after he passes away, that's the way the Rebbe talks about himself, is on a whole new level. After my father-in-law passed away, the energy, the Rebbe said, kicks up. We're kicking up the energy. It's no more number 10, it's number 11. And therefore the Rebbe says, this is the energy, watch this. Because number 11 is infinite light, that's why it is Ufaratzta. What does Ufaratzta mean?
Spread out. Yeah.
Mashiach energy. Faratzta, breaking all the borders. There are no more borders for holiness. Judaism without borders. That's the Rebbe. Because the first time in history there's a leader of the Jewish people that inspires global, the entire world, everywhere. There isn't a place today that doesn't have a Jewish center. Across the entire world, every country, every place. You never had that in Jewish history. My son...
Even Alaska.
My son just went out a few months ago to Fairbanks, Alaska. Tomorrow he's doing his lighting of the menorah, public lighting of the menorah, an ice menorah. It's going to be 20 below zero. 20, an ice menorah that he's lighting over there. Last week Shabbos on Yud Tis, he had 30 people in his house in Fairbanks, Alaska. He just gave a menorah to a trucker who's driving up to Purdue Bay. Purdue Bay is actually in the Arctic Circle. It's by the Arctic. It's the furthest road in North America. It's dark all the time. My son has 2 hours a day now. He has to daven Shachris and Mincha, everything all together. He has 2.5 hours a day.
Wow.
But there, and he gave the trucker a menorah, Jewish guy. He gave the trucker a menorah, and the guy, big trucker, and he's sitting with a bunch of truckers. None of them are Jewish besides him, and he has the menorah lit. Unbelievable. To reach every corner of the world. That's Ufaratzta. The Rebbe says that's number 11. God without borders, holiness without borders, infinite light. It's everywhere. The Rebbe says that's number 11. And to prove it, and the Rebbe himself, the Rebbe's birthday is on the 11th day of Nisan. He's not born on 10. He's born on 11th day. The Rebbe was the one who told us to celebrate birthdays. So you would imagine that his birthday would be accurate, right? So, if Hashem plants him in this world on the 11th day, it's important. But you'd say, okay, it's his birthday. Well, when he became the Rebbe, when he became the Chabad Rebbe, he didn't do it in the year 5710. He waited 1 year.
1 year, oh wow.
The Rebbe became Rebbe in the year 5711. So he becomes a Rebbe on 11. If that's not enough, which month was it? In the month of Shvat, which is the 11th month of the Jewish calendar. So the Rebbe becomes Rebbe on the 11th month of the 11th year, and he's born on the 11th day. Wait, which day? His father-in-law passed away on the 10th. The Rebbe became Rebbe on the 11th day. Because he said the Maimer in the end of the day, it was already the 11th, it was night already. The Rebbe became the Rebbe on the 11th day of the 11th month of the 11th year, and he's born on the day of 11. And if that's not enough, we all know the Rebbe became Rebbe when he said the famous Maimer, where he said that we're the 7th generation, we bring the Shekhinah down to this world, the famous Basi Lagani. With that discourse, the Rebbe changed the whole world. With that, when the Rebbe said that discourse, the Rebbe started 10:40 p.m. in the 11th hour. The Rebbe was holding in middle the discourse when it struck 11, the Rebbe was in middle the discourse. The 11th hour, the 11th day, the 11th month of the 11th year, and everything about him is number 11, infinite. And you know what else the Rebbe said in that discourse? The Rebbe said, we are going to conquer the world. And you know what the Rebbe says? I'm not going to do it with normal people. I'm going to do it with crazy people. In other words, the Rebbe says we're all going to do shtus the kedusha. We're all going to, the Rebbe called it holy insanity. Holy insanity. In other words, through doing crazy things, like picking up and going to Fairbanks, Alaska. That's crazy. That's not normal. I promise you, when my son called me and he said, I saw someone put out that there was a shlichus opportunity in Fairbanks, Alaska, I said, Heshi, you're absolutely out of your mind. And you know what? He said, I'm doing it. And he did it. So I warn people not to learn Tanya, because I tell them, because I don't come from Chabad. I wear a shtreimel. I warn people, don't learn Tanya. Don't start, because they'll get you. These Chabadniks, you'll have grandchildren Eskimos. Be careful. They start, they get you. Yeah, you'll learn a little Tanya, you'll learn a little bit. They make you cuckoo. That's what the Rebbe does. He makes us crazy about God. He makes you crazy about a Jew, that you will chase a Jew to the other end of the world. Right? That's the craziness. That's number 11. And it's the only way you can convert darkness to light is through craziness. Being very fixed doesn't work. That's why Chabadniks are never on time. They're never everything is it's because it's uncontainable energy. It's energy that has no limits, has boundless. That's what changes the world. So when you ask me who is responsible for Donald Trump, I will tell you very clearly, it's the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who flipped Esav over to holiness. And if you don't believe me, take a look what Trump did in order to become president. Where did he go?
Rebbe.
He went to the Rebbe,
Yep.
and he clearly, from which leader of the world?
Would go
On
to the
October
Rebbe.
7th, it was October 7th, there was a way that they want to commemorate with the Jew. Trump loves rallies, we know. You would expect him to be by a big rally. He didn't do that. He had a rally in Florida, but that was small. But the main thing he did was he came and he stood by the Rebbe and he davened on the Rebbe, which is stunning, stunning. The most powerful. What? And he put a rock and he wrote a letter. It's absolutely crazy. And I knew I was saying the whole time, he better go to the Rebbe. How do I get a message to him? How do I get a message to him? But in 2016, his daughter went. His daughter and his son-in-law went. Yep. Ivanka went the night before the election. There's the videos. She went to pray for him then. And then I think in 2020 he didn't do it. Right. But in any case, but that too is Bashkacha Pratis. So you can see clearly there's a flipping of Esav, and that comes from the power of number 11 that flips. But who is Elon Musk? Oh. So watch this. This is crazy. Because this is absolutely insane. This is insane.
Okay.
This is freaky, what I'm going to tell you right now. Okay, but listen to this. Listen to this. Because you realize Trump would not have been president without Elon Musk in the second term. Because they wanted to shut him down. Remember when they censored him? They literally cut him off, that he can't talk. Imagine, he's a sitting president still. And while he was sitting, that's how crazy the world was. And is. That the sitting president, they went and they literally kicked him off Twitter. They kicked him off. They couldn't communicate. He had no way to do this. Because they figured by that, in other words, they wanted to put limitation on him. Who broke those limitations and gave him... So when Musk came and he bought Twitter, was at the right moment, and Trump was even teasing him then. Remember, he said he said, "I'm doing my own thing. I'm going to put my Truth Social." But by him doing that, and why did Musk do it? Because he said, once you start censoring, you're going back to the USSR. Exactly. That's what you're doing. Exactly. So he had the wisdom to understand that that's not going to work. You don't like the message. You don't like the message. But you give a better message. Yeah. Convince the people, but do not censor. So by him coming, he literally, plus he pumped hundreds of millions of dollars. But you know when did he throw in his support behind Trump? When did he say, I'm going to file? Do you know when he did it?
6 months ago? No.
No, much later. he bought Twitter he's essentially voted Democrat always. So he's not even like a Republican or something. When did he say and endorse Trump? You know when? It was the day after Trump was shot.
Oh, wow.
Assassination attempt. The day after. Because he said as follows. This is what he said. When he saw the picture of Trump stand up a second after he was shot and yell, "Fight! Fight!" he said, that is not, you can't fake that. You know? His opponent, Mrs. Harris, her entire existence was prepare, give me exactly what I'm going to say, ask me this question, ask me that. Everything is preset. Everything was all a show with rehearsals and to be perfect. Right? If there's ever a moment of pure spontaneity, he wasn't planning to be shot. Okay? He wasn't planning it. And when a person is shot and has blood flowing, and you know that the gunman is still out there, what are you going to do at that moment? You're going to cower in fear, any normal person. So he said, that's a leader. Someone who can stand up. No man. He says, that's who I want my president. That's what he followed. So here's a crazy thing. You know what the Torah says about Esav? This is even before we talk about Musk. You know what the Torah says about Esav? The first time when Esav was still in the mother's womb, Rivka went to find out what's going on in this turmoil in her stomach. Mm-hmm. So she was told that you're having two empires going to come for you. They're going to split. They're going to be at each other. But in the end, it says the older one will serve the younger one. V'rav yavod tza'ir. The older one will serve the younger, which means literally he will be a servant. Esav will be the servant of Yaakov. Now in Torah, when a servant, Esav, by the way, the original Esav was Jewish. Because he had a Jewish mother and a Jewish father. Unlike Yishmael, who's not Jewish. Yishmael is not Jewish because Yishmael has a non-Jewish mother, a Jewish father. But Esav is Jewish. Now, when a Jew is a servant, how long is a Jew a servant for? Only for 6 years. A Jew cannot be a servant. But if a Jew wants to remain a servant longer than 7, and especially if he's going to become a servant forever, everybody knows what we're going to learn in the Torah in a few weeks from now. You have to take him to the door, and you have to make a hole in his ear.
Yep.
Is that crazy? Is that not crazy? That before his second term, Trump got a hole in his ear.
Oh, wow.
He was missed. He missed it. The bullet missed him by so much. I mean, God, if you ever had to see a miracle on television, this was a miracle on television. A person that was literally going to, and the fact that he doesn't read from teleprompter. He's the total opposite of that. The fact that then he decided to look at a chart. He never looks at a chart. This is the first chart he ever looked at it, right? He looks at a chart at that second. But if Hashem wants to save him, why didn't he miss? He didn't miss. He hit him in the ear. Because from that moment on, he becomes the servant of Yaakov. And do you know that that very week, his first appearance was 2 days later. This happened on Shabbos. So on Wednesday was the Republican convention, and that was when he accepted the official nomination. So God makes sure before he's going to step up to his role to accept the nomination for the presidency right now. What is he going to have? He's going to have his hole in his ear, so he will be a servant of Yaakov. He will know what his job is. And do you know, if I ever saw a humble moment on Trump, was when he walked in, his ear was bandaged, and he stood, and he said at that time, you can watch it, go back and watch it, it's incredible. He said, I should not be here now. I am only here right now I'm here because of God. That's what he said. Do you know that in Esav, the original Esav, how did Yitzchak, when Yaakov pretended to be Esav, Yaakov was able to pretend everything. The only thing that Yaakov could not pretend was that Yaakov said, when Yitzchak said to him, how did you come so fast? He said, God helped me. And Yitzchak said, doesn't sound like Esav. Esav doesn't mention God. And over here, this is already the fixed Esav. He mentioned Hashem. I'm alive today because of God. He had a hole in his ear. It's just crazy. And now he's ready to serve his brother Yaakov. That day, once that happened, now Elon Musk can come into the picture because Elon is even just as important or maybe more important than Donald Trump. Why? So this is like so absolutely goosebump crazy. 3 weeks before the Rebbe had a stroke. 3 weeks. That's what I'm saying. The Rebbe's talks, especially the last year that he spoke to us, was crazy. And the Chabad Hasidim, no one knew what the Rebbe's talking about. So much so that there are people that just couldn't handle it. People said, like, what is he saying? What's going on? They realized the Rebbe was like, it was incredible talks, but it was like so far ahead of the time. The Rebbe was talking that Mashiach is here already. The redemption is here. We're sitting already at the table. Where Mashiach Tzedkenu is with us already. We're sitting at the table with the big fish, with the ox, and everybody. And then the Rebbe has a stroke, and then he passes away. And so everybody's, wait, what's going on? It's like, and people like try to forget about these talks. But there has to be one crazy one who's going to learn it. So I was learning it for the last whatever. And I'm learning, not just me, a lot of people learned it. But I started learning this and teaching this, and I'm going nuts. Because you read this, and you look in the world, you're reading this, and the Dvar Malchus and the newspaper, they all line up together. So watch this crazy thing. When the Rebbe speaks about number 11, and he says that my father-in-law passed away, remember what did we say earlier? My father-in-law was number 10. But he says, the period of my father-in-law's leadership after he passed away, which is referring to himself, is number 11. But he says there is a third era. There is second era, which is number 11, and then there is the third era. The third era is double 11. Double 11. What do we mean double 11? He says like this. He says, my wife, my saintly Rebbe, the Rebbe gave this talk on his wife's anniversary of her passing. Rebbetzin Chaya Mushka. And the Rebbe gives this talk on the day of his wife's anniversary of her passing. And he said, you know what's interesting about my wife? She was such a tzaddikus. She passed away on the 22nd day of Shabbat. The Rebbe says 22 is 2 times 11. And you know what the Rebbe says? You know what that means? He says number 11 is infinite light. It's infinite light. It's a light that you can't stop. It breaks every wall, but it's still at odds with the world. It fights the world. It breaks the world. It's ufarats the energy. It's do as I say, and if you don't do it, bang. That's what number 11 does. It doesn't. There's no borders because it smashes the borders. It breaks everything. So, and the only way the world can accept this infinite light of God of number 11 is by the world. Listen to this. By the world needing to be silenced. You have to silence the world, and then when the world is silenced and abnegated and surrendered, it can receive God's infinite light. Example, by the giving of the Torah, what happened when God spoke at Har Sinai? No one spoke. Everybody was muted. Everybody was muted. The birds didn't chirp. The sea didn't, the waves didn't crash. Everything was silent because it's either you or God. You can't be, because if you're you, you're finite. So if you're gonna be in a state of expression, you're gonna contradict the light. So the only way is to be silenced. The Rebbe says that's not God's ultimate truth. That's an expression of God's light, but not his ultimate truth. God's ultimate truth, the second level of number 11, the inside of number 11, is one that he can be and we can be at the same time. We don't have to stop talking for God to talk. He and us are totally one because he's everything. It's such a deep level that we don't have, that Hashem is, while the butterfly is being a butterfly, while the bird is being a bird, while this person is dancing, incredible that God is expressing himself in her and in it through her dancing and through your singing and through your learning and we don't have to be silent. The world merges completely with God. God doesn't cancel the world with his light. Why? Because that's the essence of Hashem. The essence of Hashem is the essence of everything. And that is the deeper level, the Rebbe says, of number 11. The higher dimension of number 11. Why? Because Kabbalistically, in Keter, in the crown, anybody that learned a little Kabbalah, there's the external part of the crown and the internal part of the crown. And the Rebbe says something very fascinating. that revelation of the deeper part of number 11 started in 1988 when his wife passed away. It's a new tekufa, the Rebbe says. It's a new phase in the world. A deeper godliness reveals. Why? Because my wife's holy soul, when her soul went up, she's downloading this light, this level. Why? Because this level is connected to Jewish women more than Jewish men. Jewish men are connected to the external part of the crown. Jewish women are connected to the essence of the crown. Women are rooted higher than men. That's why until Mashiach comes, it's a very masculine world. Once Mashiach comes, it's a feminine world. Eishes chaya la teres baila. The women's light, the women brings... So the Rebbe is essentially saying, my wife is bringing out in me what I could not bring out in myself. She's bringing out a deeper level of number 11. She and all the Jewish women. The Rebbe said that her passing, she was kind of culminated with the service of all the Jewish women of all the generations. She was the bringing up all the work of all the women, triggering the essence of God, the essence of number 11, the deeper level of number 11, that is not in conflict with the world, but is unified with the world. That's what the Rebbe says. So here's the clincher. The Rebbe says, and it's hinted to in her name. Her name is Chaya Mushka. The Rebbe says Chaya Mushka represents transcendental light. And he goes in, I'm not going to go into the whole explanation. But he says Chaya is a lower level. Mushka is the highest level, because the name Mushka is associated with a spice that's in the Ketores. Oh. And that spice that I told you from a non-kosher animal that gets converted to holiness is actually called musk. And musk, which is musk, like you have a scent called musk, which that is an energy of such incredible light. It's the essence of number 11. It's the deeper part of number 11. It's the feminine side of number 11, which is a much deeper dimension of number 11. And when that is revealed, that's the essence of number 11. And that doesn't break the world. That transforms the world. Makes the finite world be able to open up to receive infinity. So the Rebbe said, and the Rebbe goes into a whole thing in his footnotes, that mushka and musk, one place in the Gemara it says mushka and musk, and I'm reading this and I'm saying, oh, man, I didn't read this. I was actually taking a hike on Thanksgiving on the Hollywood Mountains somewhere, and as I'm walking, I was like 100 feet in front of my wife, because uphill I go ahead, and downhill she's always ahead of me. But as we're going up, and I suddenly turn around, and I said, "This is crazy what just hit me right now." I said, Elon Musk! The Rebbe says that the real power of number 11 is from Mushka, which Mushka is Musk. And he says it's a deeper power of number 11. So I said, oh, come on, my mind is playing games on me. So I said, hey, hold on, what's his first name? So you think I'm kidding. I wouldn't present it if I didn't have evidence. Okay? So what's his first name? First of all, he has an interesting first name. He has a Jewish first name, Elon. Yeah. So number one, Elon is which month do we celebrate trees? Elon, Tu B'Shvat. Shvat we said is which month? No, 11. The Rebbe's month, where the Rebbe becomes Rebbe, number 11.
Right.
Elon means a tree. And the word Elon starts with an aleph and a yud. What's an aleph yud? 11. Wow. Okay. How many children does Elon Musk have? 11. He has 11 children. How do you like that? Elon Musk has 11 children. But that's, right, so it's crazy. He had actually 12. One baby was born like, it was Sid, it's called, when that baby dies. But he has 11 children now. He has 11 children. But here's the crazy part of this. The Talmud says, wait. The Talmud says that they would only allow, this is the biggest piece of evidence. The Talmud says they would only allow a person a Kohen to do Ketoret one time in their life. Ketoret was considered a very special job. Ketoret was done daily. The main one was Yom Kippur, was also done daily. They would do, the way they would hand out the jobs in the temple would do lotteries. But Every Kohen can come yearly whenever you're going to work. You can go in the lottery. One lottery you weren't allowed in if you ever got to do that job. And that was the Ketores. Only one time you were allowed to do it. Why? Because, listen to this. Everybody wanted to do Ketores. Because Ketores made you rich.
Yep.
If you did Ketores, you became wealthy. Okay?
Yep.
Ketores brought wealth. So here you have a man whose name is Musk, who I'm according to my thesis over here, is rooted in the Musk element of the Ketores.
Okay.
The Musk element of the Ketores, which is the deeper part of him and is the craziest, richest person ever to live.
Mm-hmm.
And when we say he's rich, we mean that they're speaking of him being a trillionaire, not like the first trillionaire. Crazy money, like crazy. Okay, Elon Musk, crazy. Okay, wait, but we're not done yet. If the Rebbe says that the two levels of number 11 is the masculine side of number 11 and the feminine side, the feminine is deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So one is the Rebbe and one is the Rebbitzin. The Rebbitzin brings out in the Rebbe a power that's much deeper inside of him, right? Yes. And if that would be the case, then Trump would be the external part of number 11. And you take a look at Trump, you see that. What do you see? How does Trump get his way? He's in a very masculine way. He lets the Panamanian Prime Minister know that he better open up the Panama Canal. If not, he picks up Trudeau and he holds from Canada like this and he dangles. He's telling Canada right now that they're probably going to end up being the 51st state, and Greenland, which is probably going to end up to be the 52nd state. He muscles his way through the thing because he's number 11, but a number 11 that breaks things. Mm-hmm. He's a breaker. He shatters. Give it to me my way. If you don't listen, boom. That's the level, the lower level of number 11. What does Musk do? Musk is the nicest person. He's not. But what does he do? He's such a wild thinker. He's preparing the world to be able to receive like crazy infinite blessings. He's trying to think out of the box, opening us up to like the future. That's what he's always talking about. I'm going to take you to. He just gave a speech. He said these amazing times are coming. He says it's not going to. I just heard a video. It's not going to be business as usual. We're going to shake things up. I'm so excited. There's an incredible bright future. In other words, his whole idea is to create innovation that's going to take us into a new era of existence that we didn't even know now. But according to that, if that's the feminine side, so I was thinking maybe Musk, if Trump was once Esav in his first incarnation, maybe Musk was Esav's wife in the first incarnation.
Could be, yeah.
Maybe, I thought maybe that can be. Maybe, and you see, they're always hanging out together. Now, I don't know what to say. But maybe, there's so much they're accusing him as being president, so maybe, guess what? You ready? You ready for something? This is my last one for tonight. This is my last one. This is really crazy. I'm listening to the reading of the Torah, Parshas Toldos, which was the Shabbos after Thanksgiving. So when I took that hike and I had this revelation on Thursday, and then I was sitting and listening to the Torah reading. Listen to this. When Yitzchak is about to bless Esav, he tells him, I'm going to go out and hunt for me. I want to bless you. The Alter Rebbe, by the way, everything you see in Chassidus, the Alter Rebbe says, why does Yitzchak want to bless Esav? Like we said earlier. And the Alter Rebbe goes into a whole 2 pages to explain that Esav is connected to number 11. Esav is connected to 11. And the infinite, and Yitzchak can see it, and Yitzchak wants to bring down that light to make Esav into a Baal Tshuva through the blessings. He wants to activate the number 11. But if we say that the deepest part of number 11 comes out through the wife, so we find something interesting. What's the last pasuk right before Yitzchak calls Esav and says, I want to bless you? What's the last pasuk? Literally, look at the verse right before Yitzchak. It says Yitzchak became old, and he says, Esav, come and bless you. It says, Vahia Esav Arbaim Shana. Esav was 40 years old, and he gets married. And he takes 2 wives. One of his wives, her name is Yehudit Bat Be'eri, That's his first wife. And the second wife, her name is Basmas. But I smell some. Boire mine. What did we say tonight?
Besamim?
Boire mine bisamim, right? Basmas is her name. Bas Elon. Elon is Elon, same word. Basmas is bisamim. Bisamim is mus. Mus is a type of bisamim. Ketores is bisamim. And Rashi says, you know what the verse says? They were getting Yitzchak and Rivka really angry. You know why? Because they were smoking ketores for the idols. So then I said, hey, this is crazy. Esav is marrying a person called Basmas Bas Elon. So she's the feminine side of Esav. She's doing ketores. And then she was corrupted, just like Esav was corrupted. 3,500 years further, 4,000 years later, we've rectified everything. Esav is rectified, and Esav's wife in the old times is the smoker of the Besamim, is also rectified. Together, they're coming together to support Mashiach, and Be'ezras Hashem are going to build a new world. They're going to help and pave the way for the instruction. This is literally what's going on, and Mashiach is the real drive.